Good morning, Philadelphia. Good morning, warm Philadelphia. Good morning, warm, wet Philadelphia. Thank you very much for coming. Isn't this a remarkable facility? Pennsylvania Savings Fund Society, PSFS. It's still part of the heritage on top of the building here. Remarkable. My name is Al Lindenberg, and I'm CFO at Capital Analytics. When I first began my career, it was with Girard Bank. My desk was right about where the lobby bar now is at the Ritz-Carlton. At that time, no building in the city was taller than William Penn's hat on the top of City Hall. Philadelphia's skyline is a testament to the phenomenal growth that the city has enjoyed since that time. In many ways, the city of Philadelphia is poised to build upon past successes and accelerate its future growth. Capital Analytics is proud to play a part in telling Philadelphia's story and featuring the many unique markets within the Delaware Valley. Today, we celebrate the debut of our first annual economic report on the city of brotherly love called Invest Philadelphia. When I think of the other markets that we're in, such as Miami, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta, Orlando, Tampa, I am reminded of what a critical role Philadelphia is playing in supporting our growth as a company. Philadelphia's fosters an ecosystem of business development. Philadelphia is welcoming to new ideas, new companies, and new people. The city's leadership has shown great prowess in making this city one of the most advantageous places to work, live, and play. Our mandate is clear: produce annual economic intelligence for the local, national, and international entrepreneur, investor, and business person looking to do business right here in Philadelphia. While the finished product is a polished and sleek, well-rounded, 208-page report, a lot of hard work goes into making it the most comprehensive business publication on Philadelphia. As you may know, to produce each and every year's economic review, we spend over 8 months in the market conducting hundreds of interviews to produce this deep dive into the key economic areas for our national and international readership. Our readership, which spans from Center City to as far as China, expects to know who are the major players and what are they saying at this moment about the economic climate that they want to invest in. When you receive a copy of this year's report at the conclusion of this event, I think you will agree that we have accomplished this task. I would like to thank our team for their tireless hard work and dedication. I'd like to thank the more than 250 local CEOs that our team met with, who were generous with both their time and information. And I'd like to thank our many sponsors who enabled us to produce this magazine. With that, I'd also like to thank our sponsors for today's event: Archer, CBiz, Community College of Philadelphia, Greenberg Traueg, Independence Blue Cross, KeyBank, Mainline Health, Mazars, Obermeyer, Penn Medicine, Salus University, Temple University Health Systems, University of Pennsylvania, Veolia North America, Wells Fargo. Would you please join with me in a round of applause for our sponsors and thanking them very much? And now, please help me welcome Abby Maloney, President of Capital Analytics, to the stage.
Good morning, Philly. How you doing? I love how it's raining and everyone is here. It's just, I can't thank you enough for braving the weather and making it here to celebrate with us. Honored panelists and speakers, consul generals, distinguished guests, thank you again for joining us to celebrate today the inaugural release of Invest Philadelphia. As Al mentioned, my name is Abby Maloney, and I'm the president and founder of Capital Analytics. I actually grew up in Haddonfield, New Jersey, just 15 minutes over the bridge. And while I moved away over a decade ago, growing up, Philly was my city. My dad took me to the vet to watch the Phillies and the Eagles play. South Street taught me what people watching really was. I married a Sylvester Stallone enthusiast, and on our wedding day, no joke, we went in front of the museum, and we have the whole family pumping fist in full wedding attire. And every time I'm back, I always make sure that I find a good cheesesteak, because literally you go an hour outside of this area and it's just not the same. It's just not. But I always wanted to see the world, so after graduating college, I took a job with an international research and consultancy firm, and for about 9 years, I lived and worked in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. I've been to over 50 countries around the globe, and I consider myself blessed to have experienced so many interesting cultures and people. And while my city became Dubai or Istanbul and now Miami, my first city will always proudly be Philadelphia. Just over 5 years ago, I started this company with the intention to bring back home all that I learned from my international experience to domestic markets that I see so much value in. And here I finally stand in the city that raised me to release the very first edition of Invest Philadelphia. I cannot express how delighted I am to be here. Just 1 year ago, the Eagles' hard-fought and well-earned Super Bowl win brought enormous national and international attention to Philadelphia, underscoring what we here at Capital Atlantic have already seen, enormous untapped potential. Invest Philadelphia is our first foray into the Northeast, following a resounding success in Florida and Georgia. And we couldn't ask for a better time to help the greater Philadelphia region capitalize on its growing global visibility. The energy in this city is palpable. Philadelphia is one of the top 10 rising cities in the US for startups, ranking number 8 on a 2018 list compiled by Forbes. And the recent opening of the Comcast Technology Center has created an innovative tech and startup hub right in the heart of the city. While the cost of doing business in Philadelphia is 2% above national average, the city's many strengths, including its geographical location, world-class universities, including the second largest university population in the US, and affordability compared to other Northeast hubs like Boston and New York City. With Philiport expanding cargoes, adding cranes, and continuing to create jobs, Philadelphia International Airport undergoing major expansion and renovation to improve customer experience and connectivity, a thriving life sciences and biotech industry, and a housing market that just might be the hottest in the country, Philly is truly a city on the rise. While escalating global trade tensions and rising interest rates suggest there could be a potential slowdown in the horizon, Philadelphia's economic indicators are overwhelmingly positive as we begin 2019. By the end of 2018, job gains in the region had reached a rate of 1.4% year over year, largely bolstered by healthcare, information technology, and distribution, as well as the December 2017 major tax overhaul. And while Philadelphia was not successful in attracting Amazon's HQ2, the bid provided local and regional leaders an incredible opportunity to develop new tools and reusable assets to promote Philadelphia on both a national and global stage. Establishing a global identity has been an important focus of Philadelphia, and investors are taking notice. In the first 3 quarters of 2018, Philadelphia experienced a 516% increase in foreign direct investment in local commercial real estate from Germany and China. Philadelphia was a vision before it came a city, and that legacy of innovation and inclusion is built into its bones. From revolutionary ideas like religious freedom and political democracy to modern innovations like biotech patents, cancer research, and delivery apps, Philadelphia promises to continue to be a city of firsts. Our team here at Invest is thrilled to be a part of letting the world know that Philadelphia is open for business. The intention today is to bring our annual report live. And so we have prepared a program that I think that you will all very much enjoy. And I want to dive into that right now. Harold T. Epps is the Director of Commerce at the City of Philadelphia and is a business leader with over 30 years of corporate experience in providing high-performance products and solutions for complex and compliance-driven industries. As Director of Commerce, Harold oversees and implements policies to help both small businesses and major corporations in Philadelphia thrive. Commerce coordinates activities along neighborhood commercial corridors with small businesses and entrepreneurs, major real estate development projects, large-scale business attraction and retention efforts, as well as efforts to increase minority-owned business contracting opportunities. Please help me welcome Harold T. Epps to the stage.
Good morning, good morning. I grew up in a Baptist church. Good morning. All right, that's a little better. So 2 comments before I will get into my prepared comments, and then I'll close with some that were not prepared. Number 1, thank you to all the sponsors who have helped make today possible. Please, another round for them. having come from the private sector, I know the number of requests that you all are confronted with, and helping us get the word out about Philadelphia, this administration is very appreciative. So again, on behalf of our Mayor Jim Kenney, myself as Commerce Director, again, thank you. Secondly, to Abby, who I just met today. She told me she lived in Miami, but she was a Philadelphian, so I just went straight to the bottom line, and I asked her the following question: who's your football team? And so she passed that test by saying Eagles, so we'll give her a bit of a due. And after the words she gave you, I can sit down because she's already given my speech. But since I stayed up all night preparing this one, I'm going to plow ahead. So again, good morning. It's an honor to be here with all of you as we celebrate the launch of Invest Philadelphia, a publication we are confident will help drive further investment and business attraction in our city and region. After several difficult decades, Philadelphia is finally experiencing the success it deserves. So let me say this, I moved here 11 years ago, and I've now been Commerce Director for 3 years, and I've come to appreciate that if you are Philadelphian, it's only the last 10 or 11 years you've ever seen your city grow. So as a recent arrival, I now better understand how Philadelphians can have a chip on its shoulder because it was in decline for 5 decades. But the good news, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, it is now on the rise. So again, finally, we are moving in the right direction. As a result, our name is on the lips of national media, corporate CEOs, and their millennial employees. And again, this investment is part of continuing to propel that into the future. But our success is not a reason to sit back and rest on our laurels. Let me repeat that. It is not a reason to sit back and rest on our laurels. The increased attention we are receiving and the progress that has been made gives us even more of a reason to double down on our efforts and keep Philadelphia moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, for many Philadelphians, the recent economic success I've just mentioned feels like it happened in another city, which means it's not yet touching all our neighborhoods and communities, and part of my job is to help ensure that we maximize that potential. We need our recent growth to not just continue, but increase, and we need it to work for all Philadelphians. Let me inject another component based on what Abby said. So again, one of the things that's happening is the city job growth rate is now outpacing the suburbs. And again, that's a new phenomenon. The city's job growth for the last 3 years has been about 2.1, 2.2%. The national average has been about 1.9 to 2%. And the suburbs in New Jersey has been about 1.5 to 1.9. So again, something Philadelphia can be proud of is for 3 consecutive years, we are outpacing the national average and the region in which we reside. Again, a new phenomenon for Philadelphia. Even in spite of that, I often hear, and again, I spent my first decade here in the private sector, and I was a part of that voice, and so it still rings in my ear. And what rings is I often hear members of the business community say that we need more urgency in Philadelphia's efforts to grow its economy. I could not agree more. In fact, I often tell my staff, and some of them in the room, they are tired of hearing the following, but I say it often: we are going in the right direction, but not nearly fast enough. Every day, those of us in city government are working hard to ensure that Philadelphia is steadily growing and improving. Now, I think I have a reasonably objective perspective, 10 years in the private sector, 3 years in the public sector. And one of the things I am most appreciative of is the dedication, hard work, and commitment and sense of urgency that the city of Philadelphia's government employees have. Many of you don't share that perspective, but let me tell you that it is a lot of intentionality, a lot of commitment, a lot of passion to make this a better city. I think we also know we have 3 branches of government for a reason, and sometimes it's hard to move it forward. And again, being part of that government now, I understand some of the challenges that we do face, but it is not without full dedication and commitment. The team that I am proud to lead, the Department of Commerce, focuses on key areas including growing from within by supporting local entrepreneurs and existing companies, and growing the pie by inviting new businesses, talent, and residents to the region. That's what this is about. Our team is constantly exploring new ways to expand access to capital and special financing options for small businesses. That is one of the biggest challenges that we do face in growing our small businesses, and that is access to capital. By the way, it's also receivables and their cash flow. So if you do business with small business, on behalf of them, let me ask you to do one thing. Please pay them on time. I probably spend half a day a week with my Office of Economic Opportunity trying to help people get paid. And so if you say you care about small business, doesn't matter the gender, doesn't matter the race, pay them on time. They need their cash. They're not blessed to have the tens of millions of dollars sitting in reserve that some of you have. And you can't kid me because I know what you got, okay? So pass it on, pay your small business on time. So back to my prepared words. We're working toward increasing Philadelphia's global connections in order to elevate our presence around the world and expand our economy. You know, we've been to a number of different countries. In spite of what you may read in the newspaper, we think it's a good return on investment because we can articulate, document, and quantify the companies that have come, they're in the process of coming, and those that we have as strong leads to come to this area. If we don't get the word out, then we will continue to be dwarfed by New York and Washington, D.C. Also the recipients of the HQ2 awards. By the way, I think that over time we will benefit significantly from that because one of our advantages is our location, our geography, and our advantage over cost, which will even get wider as a result, I think, of what's going to happen to the regions that Amazon has chosen. Part of our due diligence, we went to Seattle, we saw the exponential increase in commercial and residential and how they will really push people out. I think that will happen, particularly in New York. I think we will see some of the benefit to that migrate this way. We're also looking for solutions that allow us to improve the city's business climate. I tri-chair with Rob Wunderling, President and CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, and Councilman Darrell Green. We tri-chair a committee that is got half a dozen subcommittees working in excruciating detail, trying to simplify, eliminate, and then automate some of the processes within the city. We've had some minor wins. We expect to have more going forward. So again, private sector to public sector, I understand we need to make Philadelphia a more increasingly business-friendly city. We've also made some progress recently on all of these areas, and I look forward to continuing the positive momentum. During the Kennedy administration, major retailers like Wawa, Giant, and Target have upped their presence in the city. They would not do that if they did not see the benefit. And international companies like Jazz Pharmaceuticals and Wuxi Yaptec have made new commitments to Philadelphia, among many others. Recently, we hosted Project North Star for Black and Brown tech individuals who are interested in running and working on their tech business. That's one of the commitments we're trying to do, is to make this a tech hub for minority tech individuals. And I already said this, but while the world was busy following the race for HQ2, local companies like GoPuff also doubled down on Philadelphia. Part of my job is to oversee the airport, and we're proud of the fact that it continues to be the hub for the region, generating $15.4 billion in annual spending, welcoming approximately 81,000 passengers per day, and of recent we have new domestic and international destinations. Those airlines that have increased their presence here, of course, include American, Frontier Spirit, and a new airline, new carrier by the name of Sun Country. We look forward to supporting all of them. And right now, there are a number of ongoing capital projects to improve facilities and service at PHL, including terminal improvements and concessional developments. Those improvements will be measured in a couple $billion. Now, for those of you who expect to see a new runway, probably not so fast because consolidation, bigger planes, all of that has diminished the need for increased takeoff and landings. And anybody who's flown recently, as I have, know that they're a little crowded, right? And they have maximized optimizing their capacity. And so at this point, there is no data that suggests that we need to invest $2 billion in a new runway. So it's just trying to kind of, I don't go anywhere in any week when somebody doesn't ask me, when's the new runway coming? Probably not anytime soon. There have also been significant investments made in the areas of education and workforce development. You'll hear about some of that later. I know Dr. Generals, I'm a new member of the Community College Board of Trustees, so I know Dr. Generals will talk about some of that. And that is probably one of the most key dimensions to the future of Philadelphia. Those of you who are legacy Philadelphians, I think if we're honest with ourselves, would need to acknowledge that we have not done a very good job of investing in our K through 12 and or our community college. And if we want this region to stay competitive, we absolutely must increase our tenacity, both at the city and state level, of our investments in K through community college levels, because this is now a knowledge economy. So back to Amazon for a reason. I was in the room when we were debriefed. The number one reason that they did not choose Philadelphia was talent. It was not cost, it was not incentives, it was talent. And it was all of the characteristics of talent from our education system, and even the college grads. We did not have enough in the technical areas that they thought they needed. So we've got some work to do there. But we also learned a lot. One of the things we are proud of is the journey that the mayor has committed to around improving our talent infrastructure, including the pre-K program, improving the partnership with the school district, and again, most significantly, choosing to take control of the school system, which my vote was yes. It really went like this: if we're going to be responsible for it, we might as well be accountable for it. And so, but that's a long-term journey. It will take the efforts of everybody in this room to ensure that we improve the competitiveness of Philadelphia, and again, education is at the forefront of it. So, one of the other parts of the duties of the Commerce Director, it's a new duty, is to oversee the Office of Workforce Development. And I could not be more thrilled than to have that in the portfolio, because I know enough about what the data says to say that we've got a lot of work to do to shift the conversation and the culture to the increased tech talent pipeline that you need to support your business, particularly with the silver tsunami that is not only coming at us, but is prevalent today. So again, a lot of work that will happen there. But in spite of all that, Philadelphia is right now having the privilege of being a city on the rise. We are already talked about by Abby. We're an exceptionally affordable city, both on the commercial and residential real estate side. Our geographical peers that we compete against every day, in spite of the region, but our cities up and down the East Coast, Boston, New York, and Washington, we have a distinct advantage over, and we sell that every day. In spite of what's happened over the last decade, people still believe that we are losing our college grads. That is just not true. We have a very high retention rate of them. Over the last decade, it's gone from 25% to somewhere between 65 and 70, and all the data, that's right, and all the data we compiled from the HQ2 said that if we can create the jobs, they will stay. Why will they stay? Because it is getting increasingly costly in some of the other tier 1 cities, and young people want to be in cities. And so we have distinct geographical and affordability advantages. And so together we must continue to increase the number of jobs that we have. So Philadelphia is also increasingly recognized as a leader in innovation, thanks in large part to world-class hubs that are developed throughout the city, specifically those in University City, Grace Ferry, and Navy Yard. I see my friends at Penn sitting right here, so thank you for all that you do. Places like Schuylkill Yards, University City Science Center, UPenn, Penn Innovation Center, Cambridge Innovation Center provide communities and much-needed resources for life science and tech companies. I spent the first 20 years of my career in Boston, so I know Boston very well. And one of my things about my friends in Boston is they think highly of themselves. But I will tell you that what's happening in West Philadelphia with my lovely colleague with all the alphabet soup is that we're going to give them a run for their money. And we already are. And again, thank you for all that you're doing to make that happen. One of the most recent developments is the launch of the Johnson & Johnson's J-Pod at Penn Innovation. and it will help boost the activity in our regional life sciences and tech ecosystems for years to come. So we've got all the right ingredients to make the vision of Philadelphia an innovative hub and have it become our reality, but we've got some systems that we've got to grow to scale. We must all work together to invest in our education system, strengthen our workforce, ease the process of operating the business here, and do a better job sharing our successes with the world. So, as I close, Philadelphia is trending in the right direction, and the critical moment that will ensure that continued prosperity is now. So I carry this perspective, and I'd like to leave it with you. 2026, the 250th birthday of the nation. There's some long word, semi-sesquicentennial, something like that, that defines that period. We cannot change history. So by the realities of history, Philadelphia will be at the center of that celebration. I would ask you to think about, where do we want our city to be in 2026? Now, a lot of people will say that's a long way out. Well, I would argue with you it's not. The high school graduating class of 2026 are already in the 6th grade, number one. And number two, some of the visions that some people have about capital investment, we can start them, or we can't even finish them by 2026. So it's not that far away, but if you think about West Philadelphia, the Navy Yard, we'll cap 95 and the development on the Delaware, up North Broad Street, the transportation center that's going to emerge at the North Broad Street Amtrak stop, and other developments. This city has had a great decade behind it, but I think it has a very, very, very bright future, and together we'll be very proud of where we find ourselves in 2026. And I'll close with my other mantra, onward, forward, more, bigger, faster. Thank you very much.
We're going to present Harold with the very first book of Invest Philadelphia. And with that, I'd like to jump into our first panel, Healing the Community, Healthcare in Philadelphia. Please help me welcome to the stage Susan Swazzini, Executive Vice President, Division Manager of Wells Fargo, Dr. Jay Feldstein, President and CEO of the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, forgot how to speak today, sorry, Jack Lynch, President and CEO of Mainline Health, Dr. Larry Kaiser, President and CEO of Temple University Health System, and Lauren Merdza, Partner of DLA Piper.
I'm Suzanne Swazzini, and I run our middle market banking activities in the state of Pennsylvania. I want to thank the team at Capital Analytics and launching Invest Philadelphia for this remarkable panel that we're going to have today on stage. My team works with companies across greater Philadelphia, and we recognize there is no greater economic driver in this region than healthcare. The top 10 hospital systems in greater Philadelphia employ more than 130,000 people. Many of them are extremely and high-paying and highly specialized jobs. In the state of Pennsylvania, healthcare accounts for 1 out of 10 jobs and $128 billion in economic impact. It's huge. The quality of healthcare in this region is second to none, and we have world-renowned research and teaching hospitals and people that travel from all corners of the globe to come to Philadelphia for our healthcare. Now more than ever, Greater Philadelphia is leading the way as a magnet for healthcare innovation. And along with education and the pharma and life sciences, healthcare forms the backbone of this region's economic ecosystem. But with all these successes, there are some challenges, and these challenges take many forms. How do we make healthcare more affordable and accessible to all? What opportunities exist to better this reach? And with such high quality of care available in this region, how do we stay on top? And how do we maintain our reputation? Here with me today to answer all these questions and other questions is a distinguished panel. So I'm going to ask each one to introduce themselves and give a few comments around their organization.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Jay Feldstein. I'm the president and CEO of Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. I'm also an alum. And in addition to being one of the largest medical schools in the city and in the country, we operate 4 primary care healthcare centers in the city of Philadelphia. One in West Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, Ballard-Kinwood, and Roxborough, and with a strong emphasis on primary care. And 60% of our graduates go into primary care, and you'll see them at all the hospitals and healthcare centers across the city, across the state. So that's what we do, and we're very proud to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. As I look out at the room, first of all of us want to thank all of you for coming, because this is sort of like going to an event and you just hope people show up. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for being here. Thanks to Capital Analytics Associates and Invest Philadelphia. I wasn't born here, but I got here as quick as I could. I'm the president and CEO at Mainline Health. We consist of 4 acute care hospitals: the Lankenau Medical Center, Bryn Mawr Hospital, Paoli Hospital, Riddle Hospital, an acute rehab hospital at Bryn Mawr Rehab Hospital, and a drug and alcohol treatment center at Mearmont Treatment Center. We have a number of ambulatory centers around the city. We've been keeping the construction business busy over the last 5 to 7 years. We just completed a $250 million renovation of Bryn Mawr's campus, and we're undergoing a $50 million expansion in the emergency department at Lankenau. I think that speaks to the needs of healthcare, and we feel blessed to be in a region where there's tremendous healthcare available in the city and in the suburbs, partnering with academic and research organizations that make Mainline Health special. So thank you.
So they got us a microphone. I don't have to stand up there. So I'm Larry Kaiser. I'm the Dean of the Medical School at Temple University. I'm also the President and CEO of Temple University Health System and the Senior Executive Vice President for Health Affairs for Temple University. But I'm also a cardiothoracic surgeon and still practice. Temple University Health System serves North Philadelphia, among other areas, but North Philadelphia, as you know, one of the poorest areas in the country. Philadelphia, of course, has the distinction of being the poorest large city in the country. We also have the distinction of being the largest city in the country without a public hospital. So the care of the underserved falls to all of us here in the city, but a disproportionate share of that falls to us in North Philadelphia. It's been the commitment of the Temple University Health System since its existence to care for this underserved population, but at the same time be a full-service academic medical center. We led the nation last year in lung transplants. We also obviously do all the other high-end procedures, trying to be a major academic medical center while also being the de facto community hospital to one of the poorest areas in the country is a challenge, both from the standpoint of quality and cost, but I believe we've been reaching that and at least attempting to do that. But the demographics that we serve, large Medicaid population, large Medicare population as well, so it's a challenging business to be in.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lauren Mirza. I'm with partner at DLA Piper. It's one of the largest global law firms, and we have locations in Philadelphia, a large location here that focuses on healthcare and life sciences practices, and we work with our colleagues throughout the world and a lot of clients in this area in the healthcare and life sciences space.
Great. Thank you. And we have quite a distinguished panel. We're going to jump right into some questions. And the first is, defining healthcare in Philadelphia. What makes Philadelphia a healthcare hub? Larry?
Well, I think, remember, basically medicine began here in Philadelphia. The first medical school in the country was the University of Pennsylvania, a place I was proud to call my employer for 17 years. That was, despite the fact that Boston may think that everything emanated from there, medicine started here in Philadelphia. The College of Physicians in Philadelphia, also one of the first entities of its type, but medicine really did start here, and I think if you look at what goes on here, 5 medical schools in Philadelphia, very few other cities in the country have the types of capabilities that we have. Obviously, Penn, one of the leaders in the nation in research and innovation. If you look at what goes on, it's a very competitive environment, but it's an environment that has truly fostered many, many innovations in medicine, and that continues today. It's a very interesting environment in that we do have a lot of providers, but we really only have 2 payers. So the 2 major payers in the region have dominated this region in terms of how healthcare is reimbursed. It's presented some real challenges, so we're sort of super concentrated on the payer side, somewhat fragmented on the provider side, although we've seen a fair bit of consolidation in this region over the past several years. It wasn't more than 5-6 years ago that the largest market share was only about 15% or so. So that's clearly changing with some of the consolidation we've seen in the market, and it's obviously made things somewhat interesting. we'll let Jack.
Jack?
So I would say that what makes this region special is the quality of care and the quality of the institutions. When you look around, Larry and I spent a number of years in Houston, and while Boston may think they're great, Houston really believes they are. And I really believed, coming from the Texas Medical Center, that that was the epicenter for healthcare. And I believe that you needed to go to a medical center environment where all of that academic and research activity took place to get your healthcare. When I joined Mainline Health, I realized that, quite frankly, most of American healthcare takes place in community hospitals. Now, we couldn't do it without partnerships with our academic providers and academic institutions, but quite frankly, medical centers are not where all of the healthcare takes place. Yet, when you look at this region, the relationship of the academic medical centers and the community hospitals is very strong. We compete with one another, but we collaborate. We collaborate with Temple, we collaborate with PCOM, we collaborate with Jefferson, we collaborate with the payers, Blue Cross and others. And in the end, we're all here to make it safer, higher quality, equitable, and more affordable. And I think that you are fortunate enough in this region to have organizations that are committed to doing that to help make this a great place to live, play, and work.
Jay, would you like to add to that in terms of?
Well, I don't think I'm going to add a whole lot to that. I think it touched on the major issues, but we do cooperate. We put our students in every hospital from a teaching perspective, and I can tell you, I'd like to be able to say, the number one reason people come to PCOM is great faculty, great student body, great culture. The number one reason students come to PCOM is because of Philadelphia. We've done student surveys for the last 5 years because of the educational opportunities. They know for their residencies and their training, it's the best place to be for medicine in the United States. And that's why they come, because it's Philadelphia.
Would you like to comment from the law perspective?
Yeah, I was going to get to Lauren. Lauren, do you want to take it from that perspective and then maybe add a little bit about how you see the future and trends in healthcare?
Sure. So there's a lot, like they were saying, there's a lot of collaboration work, and you bring your lawyers in for the collaboration work and for the agreements that govern that collaboration work. But some of the trends that we're seeing is a movement of companies to Philadelphia and development in Philadelphia in the healthcare, med tech, and life sciences space. We're seeing a lot of startups come, and that fosters the ecosystem and really brings investment dollars as well as development and the talent that comes along with it. So we're really seeing a swell of more entrepreneurs coming to Philadelphia in the healthcare and life sciences space, and also deals that are being done here in Philadelphia, and with a focus on keeping or bringing the technology in the healthcare space here.
That's great. Well, thank you, Lauren. And growth is definitely what we want to talk about in investing. We also want to talk about progressions about collaboration. And I'd love to get some perspectives around how the industry might be changing and how we're really focusing on collaborating to be a bit more efficient and effective, and also making healthcare a little bit more accessible to all. So who would like to take that one first? Larry?
Well, as already has been mentioned, I think collaboration is key. There are lots and lots of changes going on in healthcare. The centrality of medical care has really shifted from the inpatient setting, and not just to the outpatient setting, but also into the home now, especially as we see the kinds of technology improvements that allow us to do that. We can manage much more care in the outpatient setting, much more care actually in the home now as well, and I think you'll continue to see that trend. There's absolutely no question that the pressure to get patients out of the hospital comes not only from the payers, but also comes from those of us who practice medicine, but from patients as well. It's better not to be in the inpatient setting. So what we're seeing things like joint replacement now being done in the outpatient setting, not so much yet in the Philadelphia market, although we will begin to see that. But there are markets around the country where much of the joint replacement is being done in an outpatient setting. Spine surgery being done in outpatient settings. So you're going to see more and more of that. That does bring up the collaboration. So whether it is developers of outpatient surgical centers, and there's some very innovative companies, actually a company called Move, in fact, that has set up outpatient joint replacement centers that we're seeing around the country, and I think they're coming into this area as well. Private equity is moving into the healthcare space as well. We're seeing private equity buying up dermatology practices, dental practices as well. So OB practices. So, you know, we're seeing lots and lots of areas where there are opportunities for collaboration. But I think the big thing is this move from the inpatient setting really more to the outpatient setting into the home.
Thanks, Larry. You know, I think that all of that also presents some real challenges. Larry talked about what it's like to be the provider or one of the providers in North Philadelphia. I don't know that the private equity guys are running to that market to care for your patients.
I haven't seen too many of them.
Yeah, and so I think we all have a responsibility as the traditional healthcare providers to make sure that we don't get left with only what's not paid for. And all of us are committed, I think, to working towards putting people in the right environment so the care is more affordable. Every one of you. So how many of you think healthcare costs too much? How many of you think healthcare is as safe as it needs to be? How many of you want to come up and switch places with me or Larry? So we're in a market, I lose $200 million a year taking care of 53% of my patient population, the Medicare population. For those of you, the few of you in the room that might be eligible for Medicare, we're not going to sunset that business, but we have to figure out how to do it differently. And if the private equity groups figure out how to remove the commercial base of the patient populations from the traditional providers, and the traditional providers are left with NICU care, burn care, trauma care, and acute critical care, there's got to be some mechanism for reimbursement for that. And so I think back to the collaboration question, we've got to work together, both as for-profit and nonprofit, as healthcare providers and non-healthcare providers, as providers and payers, educators, to figure out how do we do what we're all here to do. And that is to make sure that we're there for the community when they need us, when they're sick, and that we help prevent them from illness. And that requires a lot of collaboration.
I'll just give you a couple of unique perspectives on collaboration. So one of the things we do with our second-year medical students is we send them to Mainline Health, and at Lankenau, they actually act as case managers. So they do outreach to patients in West Philadelphia, physician reminder for appointments, medication adherence, addressing socioeconomic issues, transportation to and from doctor's appointments, to actually improve the quality of care in terms of their outcomes and to reduce costs, to help drive that. We also have a unique relationship with Temple Dental School, where Temple Dental students come into our primary care center to get exposed to primary care in the clinical setting. Because oral health is just as important as physical health. You know, it's a holistic view we have to take of the patients, and if we're going to make communities healthy, we have to look at the community from a holistic standpoint. And we also have an interesting partnership with the Vetri Foundation, where they will send teams out of cooks and chefs to our clinics to teach patients with chronic diseases how to best teach them nutritional support so they can be healthier, and that reduces ER admissions and hospital admissions. So it goes beyond traditional steps in terms of venture capital, private equity. What we're really trying to do is kind of a grassroots movement to affect the health of the community.
Pass that down to Lauren. And Lauren, do you want to add a little bit on what you're seeing? You talked and touched about private equity, just the investment that's happening in the city of Philadelphia.
We are seeing a lot of roll-ups of practices in private equity groups, and they're coming in because they see, you know, profit in there. But like he was saying, there's also a lot of other investments in entrepreneurial and small startups that are working to find solutions on keeping patients at home or lowering readmissions. And so there's a lot of technology and developers coming in and working here in Philadelphia that are trying to work with the health systems here and also different institutions here on that.
You know, I think one of the areas of collaboration that's most important is the outreach to those community organizations. When we talk about healthcare, I mean, the true impact of healthcare is going to come from addressing social determinants of health. If you look at what we can actually do with clinical care and the health of a population, we influence about 20% of the overall health of a population with clinical care. Far more influence is had with in addressing social determinants. Remember, in the city of Philadelphia, we have a 20-year difference in life expectancy between two zip codes that are about 2 miles apart. 20-year difference in life expectancy. Why is that? That's due to the not being able to address some of these social determinants. So whether it's housing issues, food insecurity, violence, All of these things, far and away, are more important, although it's important providing clinical care, but being able to address and recognizing what we need to do with social determinants is so critically important.
So picking up there, Larry, one of the things I think most healthcare providers in this region have concluded is we're not good enough to be there just when you're sick. And particularly as the payment systems change, we've got to help make the community healthier. In fact, the vision statement of Mainline Health is to create a healthier community. And so as Larry said, if you wait for people to get sick, and a lot of those people are impacted by those social determinants, it's very difficult to address the concerns. Lankenau Medical Center sits in Montgomery County, but adjacent to Philadelphia County. So one of the healthiest communities in the state, counties, and one of the unhealthiest in the state. And Lankenau, a number of years ago, made a decision that we could no longer think that City Line Avenue was a barrier for patients to come to Lankenau, that in fact we needed to reach into that community. And it would have been a big mistake for us to try and reach into that community without reaching into the other providers in that community. So for the last couple of years, we've been part of a group called Together West Philadelphia. It includes healthcare organizations, non-healthcare organizations, education organizations, organizations that compete with one another. Penn is a part of it, Drexel's a part of it, PCOM is a part of it, Mercy's a part of it, all looking at what can we do to help address the social determinants of health that Larry talked about. And one of the most important things we learned from folks in those neighborhoods was, don't come tell us how to get healthy. Come ask us what we need. And so Together West Philadelphia, I think, is doing some great work at better understanding what that community's needs are, and then working to put solutions in place that will reduce the likelihood that they'll end up in our emergency departments.
We have about 5 more minutes, so I wanted to really switch gears a little bit and talk about, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, about technology and looking at the future of healthcare and how that's really going to revolutionize access, affordability in this region. So, Jay, would you like to take that?
From an educational standpoint, we do a lot now with our medical students with simulation in terms of mannequins and virtual reality, where students can actually practice doing surgery, practice doing procedures instead of, in the old days, practicing on you. So that's changed because now there's so much of the care is going to the outpatient side, but a lot of training is still on the inpatient side. They have to be prepared. So there's a lot of virtual reality training going on, a lot of medical simulation going on. Most of the schools, we invest heavily in this, $2–3 million on simulation labs. So people are being trained prior to seeing real patients.
So one of the ones that we spend the most money on, and we're proud to be a partner with a lot of folks in this community, is in our electronic medical record. Our electronic medical record changed from what used to be Siemens, then went to Cerner, to Epic. The total cost of ownership over 10 years is $500 million. And so we've got to figure out how to have some kind of return on that investment. One of the reasons we did that is many of the other providers in this market, including CHOP, Penn, Temple, Mainline, and am I leaving one out?
It's close enough.
That may be, are all on Epic. And so what does that mean? If you show up in any one of those emergency departments, if you're being cared for one of those, with one of those doctors who's using Epic, and you show up at any one of those competitive organizations, or you're transferred to another organization for a higher level of care, that record is available through Community Connect. And we're seeing a tremendous amount of improvement in the care we're able to provide because the clinicians have that information about care that was provided within our system someplace else or within another system, or knowing that one of our patients that may get care someplace else that has Epic, those clinicians will have access through that technology.
I think that whole issue of interoperability is so critically important from a cost-saving perspective as well. We really don't need to repeat things that have already been done. The information that's available, it's much better for patient care. But I think when we talk about technology, I mean, I think there are so many areas right now, and we're really just beginning to tap them. Whether it's telehealth, we can manage patients remotely. Things like post-operative care can be done remotely. Patients seem to like that, in fact. So that's one area that many of us are into, some more heavily than others. Wearables, I think we're going to see more and more about wearables. The new Apple Watch, you can actually do an EKG. Now, whether or not that's valuable or not, but it's a pretty good tracing. I'm not sure you need to check your EKG to know that you're in atrial fibrillation, by the way, but you do have it there, and in case you want to see it, you can document it. But so we're going to see more and more the use of wearables in terms of being able to monitor patients remotely, being able to do things remotely that don't necessarily require you to come to a physician's office. And remember, healthcare basically is a gatekeeper phenomenon these days. I mean, we're the gatekeepers, right? We determine what our office hours are. We determine when we're going to see patients. That's not the way people deal. When you can go on the internet and find out pretty much everything you need to know, when seemingly you should be able to make an appointment at any time and not have to call. I won't go to any restaurant that I can't make a reservation at an open table. I'm not going to call anybody to do that. So more and more we're going to see much more focus on consumers and the use of technology and how they access healthcare, and that's really an area I think that we're just beginning to tap.
A lot of my practice is doing development work with large pharma, academic institutions, biotechs, and then the smaller startups. And some of the technology that's coming out, although I can't talk about a lot of it because not all those deals are public, is really cool. And it's great that a lot of these clients are in the Philadelphia area, and it'll be interesting to see all these technologies come to market.
That's great. Well, I want to thank the panel. This has been really enlightening, and I think, we are at the top of our game here. We need to continue to invest and preserve that to stay at the top of our game in healthcare in the Philadelphia region. So let's give our panelists a round of applause. So.
Let's give our healthcare panel another round of applause. And now moving on to world-class minds, education in Philadelphia. Can I please be joined by Craig Canaroli, Executive Vice President of University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Michael Middleman, President of Salus University, and Dr. Guy Generals, President of Community College of Philadelphia. Please welcome them to the stage. Wonderful. Well, this is a very exciting panel for me to moderate. I've been really looking forward to this, and I think that we're going to have a really nice discussion over here. Philadelphia is a city of first, and that includes education. As home to the first business school and one of the country's first universities, Philadelphia has a long-standing history of top-level higher education. The region's academic institutions grant thousands of degrees a year, and people come from all over the world to study in the city of brotherly love. But with the reputation for excellence comes a certain amount of responsibility. With rising costs, industry demands, and technology disrupting every aspect of society, preparing these minds for the future requires a great deal of commitment, innovation, and adapting among the area's educational leaders. So fortunately, we have some of those leaders here today who will help guide us through these different topics. And so I'd like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, and I've also asked them to come prepared with their first memory, recollection, or experience for the city of Philadelphia. So Craig, I'll start it with you.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out today on a warm but wet morning. And so I'm the Executive Vice President of Penn, and so my job is sort of analogous to a Chief Operating Officer of an institution. So I oversee a lot of the major sort of central business functions of finance, IT, HR, et cetera, facilities and the like. So my first memory of Philadelphia actually was when I was 18 years old. A friend of mine's mother said she would take us on the summer for the college tour. I can remember driving into 34th and Chestnut and seeing the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and I thought, wow, that's what a college campus is. It's just that sort of beautiful structure, and that's where I sort of fell in love with Penn. And then when you walk on the campus and you see Benjamin Franklin and College Hall behind it, it was just sort of an instant love affair.
Beautiful. Michael?
Good morning, everybody. Morning. Is that better? It's great to see everybody out here. I'm the president of Salus University, and I know half of you are wondering what's Salus University. We are a health science professions university located in Elkins Park, Our founding college is the Pennsylvania College of Optometry, and I'm proud to say that school is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. So we are the first four-year optometry program in the country. Today we train allied health science professionals, so we have optometry. We have the only freestanding College of Audiology in the country, and also the largest class. We train occupational therapists, we train physician assistants, we train speech and language pathologists. We have a special program that was a carve-out from the optometry program on blind and low vision studies. In addition to doing all this great education, we have a clinical side of us as well. We have the Eye Institute, which is located in East Oak Lane. It's a premier tertiary eye care facility where we take care of almost 50,000 patients a year. We have satellite clinics in East Falls and Chestnut Hill. We have a free speech and language institute on our Elkins Park campus. And we also have the Pennsylvania Ear Institute, also located in Elkins Park. So I'm really proud to be part of this great institution.
And your first memory?
Oh, yeah. I actually am a transplant to Philadelphia. I'm a graduate of the Pennsylvania College of Optometry. I remember standing out in the rain in January in 1976, watching them move the Liberty Bell from where it used to be to, well, where it still used to be, I guess. But that was pretty cool, just watching that.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start by saying the precipitation, it could be snow, so we shouldn't be so mad about all the rain we're enduring today. Thank you all for coming out. A number of you have asked me or made the comment that I just recently arrived in Philadelphia. The reality is that I've been here almost 5 years now. So, however, there are those who will remind me that you could be here 35 years and you're never really a Philadelphian until you can clearly articulate the year that you graduated one of the high schools. So I'm from North Jersey. I've been here for 5 years. I'm the president of Community College of Philadelphia. I guess the baby amongst the higher ed representatives here. We've just celebrated our 50th year anniversary. However, historically speaking, community colleges, as I see it, are the new democratizing institutions of education in our country. And so to that extent, we're right in the forefront of making a change for so many individuals in the city as well as the country. So I'm from Paterson, New Jersey, and I have to be real careful to recognize the fact that when I refer to the city, that I'm not still talking about New York City, that I'm talking about Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is my place of residence now. It's my home. I've grown to really adore Philadelphia. I think all of the wonderful things that I've been saying in terms of the possibility and the future and the prospects and the history. I'm sort of an armchair historian, so I've read many books about the history of Philadelphia and its struggles. I'm currently reading Walter Isaacson's book on Benjamin Franklin, so the start of University of Philadelphia, as well as the hospitals that were already mentioned. That's all Benjamin Franklin, so it's all fresh in my mind. In terms of my first memory, I would say professionally coming here, I was struck by the level of centrality, both literally and figuratively, that Community College of Philadelphia plays in the educational ecosystem here in the city of Philadelphia. We've got relationships, we dovetail with both the K-12 system as well as the higher education system. I don't think there's a university or college institution, well, basically four-year institution in the city that we don't have some kind of relationship with. And if we don't have a relationship, we have a pathway for our students to be able to transfer to those institutions. So my challenge has been developing a real sense of appreciation as to how critical that is to the educational enterprise or ecosystem, as you will, and how relative that is to the future of the city of Philadelphia. So that's my first, both figuratively as well as literally, memory and feelings about being here in Philadelphia.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I wanted to dive in, starting with keeping education accessible. With higher education costs increasing across the country and student debt remaining a huge topic of concern, I wanted to talk about how Philadelphia academic institutions are ensuring that higher education is an option for all. Guy, how about I start with you?
Sure, it is a challenge. Let me start there. We are all dealing with the issue of debt. I think the debt right now is $1.4 or $5 trillion. The average is $37,000. That's a real problem. I think that the nation needs to come to grips with the idea of education being a true value for the future of the country, and probably needs to invest more into the Pell Grants and the Title IV funding, because that is the backbone of support for most of the students that go into higher ed. With that in mind, I think that we need to be very conscious about the cost. I think some of the cost can be contained. At Community College of Philadelphia, we've raised tuition only once in the 5 years that I've been here, so tuition is something that we should not the rise in cost for institutions should not, that burden should not be placed on the backs of students. So we all have different funding structures. Community colleges began with this notion, this ideal notion that a third would be handled by, a third of the revenue would come from the state, a third would come from the city, and a third would come from the students. Well, I'm here to tell you that right now, students are paying for about 55%, and the state and the city is paying a fraction of what the original plan was. So you have to find new structures. For the community college, we can't rely completely on the public dollars, because they're not always going to be there. The city has been very favorable to us, the state, you know, a little favorable. So you have to find other ways of generating revenue for your college, and the public-private partnerships is one of those ways that you can generate revenue for your college.
And
but it's an ongoing battle.
Absolutely. And Craig, I was interested when we were speaking on our prep call, we were talking about the accessibility of Penn and how it is not out of reach. And you told me a statistic that it is more affordable than Penn State. Can you explain?
Not to pick on Penn State, but one of the benefits we have at Penn is we have an incredible leader, our president, Amy Gutman, and when she came to Penn, her vision was really focused around access, and as she updated it, really the word sort of evolved to inclusion. And so one of the great things that she's done in her tenure, among several things, is we've raised significant dollars for financial aid, over $600 million since 2004. And what that's enabled us to do, as we provide aid to any student regardless of their ability to pay. And so what that means is if you're a family who has income of $65,000 or less, your financial aid package will cover your tuition and room and board. Okay, so you're fully covered. If you're a family of $130,000 or less, your financial aid package will cover tuition. So if you know any talented person out there in the region that's looking at Penn but doesn't think it's affordable, it's basically not true. I mean, our average financial aid package exceeds tuition. The other thing we're trying to do is we are a pioneer in evolving into the online education market. And I know we're going to talk about the future a little bit later, but we have two programs that we're partnering. We've taken our sort of liberal professional studies program, and we've turned that into sort of an online Ivy League degree, a Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences, really for working adults, and the price is significantly less than it was before. And so we're basically trying to help address the need for more college attainment in the region. And finally, we're offering a new master's in engineering and information technology that's getting really great uptake for people who want to expand their skill base. And so you're going to see, I think, even the select privates evolving more into this online market to increase the access for students to education.
Thank you. And Michael, what are some of the challenges and opportunities of being a graduate-only health science profession university?
Yeah, we're a little bit unique because we kind of fit right in the middle. The way student loans are funded for graduate students is not exactly the same as it would be for undergrads. All of our loans, as a matter of fact, are unsubsidized loans. We used to have the Perkins, and before that, the Stafford loan program. Stafford went away in 2012, Perkins went away 2017, which really leaves a very perverse way of financing graduate education. So today, most of our students come to us with about $19,000 of undergraduate debt, so it's a little bit below the national average. Unfortunately, from our four-year programs, they leave almost $200,000 in debt. And you know, one of the things that makes the financing so perverse is that the day our students sign the loan agreement is the day the interest starts accruing. And that's absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, the federal government's not supposed to be making money on this. We need to somehow lobby our legislators to take a hard look at how student finance is done, especially at the graduate level. Now, we've done some things locally at the school. One of the things we're trying to do is hold our tuition flat. We think that's important. We've also developed the country's first 3-year optometry program. So our intent is to get the students in, and these are high-quality students. They have to meet a high gate. They come in, they have only 3 years of tuition pretty much, and then they can get out into the workplace a year earlier. We're looking at the same type of thing with our audiology program. We're also trying to leverage hybrid programs in some of our other colleges. So, how do you leverage online programs that are a little less expensive to present and the students incur less debt? But it's truly a challenge, only because the rule sets needs to be leveled between undergraduate and graduate. Why they're different is really beyond us, and that's something that we really need to get a handle on.
Great, thank you. One of the things I think about is the constant change of the needs of the business community. Professions are being created, it seems like, every day. And the university's struggle often tends to be, how do I not only attain the needs of the business community now, but how do I predict them for the future? And so, gentlemen, how are we doing that? Maybe Michael, if you want to handle that first.
Thank you. Actually, we're in the middle of doing scenario planning at the university now, because we're trying to look at alternative futures. What is healthcare going to look like, not 3 years from now, but 10 years from now? What are some of the requirements? In the last panel, you heard about how a lot of the care has gone from inpatient to outpatient to home. Well, many of our professions are very well placed to take care of those, whether it be optometry or physician assistants, all primary care. We're looking at what are the next best sets of professions that we should be training so that we can positively impact the way healthcare is provided. We really need to look at a way to meet, there's a huge shortage of primary care professionals in the country, and depending on what you read, there are between a shortage of 30,000 or more, and it can go out well beyond 2025 and 2030. All of our professions are well placed to do that. Now, one of the things that we're looking at is expanding the scope of practice for many of our professions, and that alone presents a set of challenges. But we've updated our curricula so that when our providers are graduating from our programs, they're well set to provide not only primary eye care in the case of optometry, but primary health care. The next thing that we need to get a handle on is how do we get the legislature to address the scope of practice for all of our professions? Unfortunately, as you look at the Commonwealth, we're probably about 10 years behind many of the other states in the country in scope of practice. Our graduates should be able to practice at the highest level that they're trained to. And in this state, they're not. So that's something that we try to go to Harrisburg and we provide advocacy, but frankly, that's something everybody in this room should be very concerned about and very vocal about. And when you're talking to your legislators, because it doesn't allow us to provide cost-effective education and then cost-effective health care, and ultimately, a lot of our graduates will leave the state because they want to practice at the highest level.
Guy, how does a 2-year degree and the connectivity with other universities affect the needs of the business community, or does that play a big factor in how you plan?
Sure. So preparation for the job market for careers really requires, on our part as well as the gentleman on the stage, a relationship with the business community. And I would think, especially at this point with the community colleges, and it's one of my challenges, is that we have not had writ large a relationship with the business community in such a way that our program development is a direct reflection of what their immediate needs are. That's my challenge, and I put that challenge out to the business community here, that when we talk about we need to have a relationship with the business community, it's not just coming to you asking for money. It really is about working with us in partnership and identifying what those next generation career opportunities might be for our students. Michael is absolutely right. Even if you just look at the healthcare profession, the scope of jobs or career opportunities that are out there are enormous and expanding as we speak, especially as you infuse more and more technologies. And I've had a number of conversations with some of the CEOs about the need for the community college to generate the next generation of technologists that are going to support telehealth and are going to support the various areas that are growing. Michael and I developed the program Ophthalmic Tech, which is relatively new. It was a field that he identified that was in need of technicians, and so we came together, and it's now in its second year, and I think we've got about a 100% placement rate. And so the sad truth is that at community colleges, most students come and they want a career in one of the clinical areas, nursing, digital imaging, respiratory tech, and we will take in about 6,000 students for 200 positions. So we have to find ways to diffuse that focus and try to steer students. Most of them have no idea what the opportunities are out there, and so I think it's critically important. Again, I put that out to the business community. Don't just say we need trained employees. You need to work with us in partnership in developing programs and curriculum that can generate that next generation of employees.
And Craig, when you and I were speaking about this, you also touched upon Penn's efforts in economic inclusion. I was hoping you could touch upon some of those programs.
Sure. I think we've got a number of efforts underway. I mean, one of the challenges that Harold, we work closely with the city on, is the diversity within the skilled trades. And so one of the programs we have is this ACE mentorship program, which is how do we get high school students interested in the architecture and construction trades. But I think just building on some of the themes of this panel is that a lot of businesses are facing a cliff in terms of demographics. I mean, just at Penn alone, the skilled trade workforce, which if you'll say is more kind of wrenches and pliers, is moving more if you don't have a more technical degree. And so there are programs out there. The question is, how can we scale them so that we're all going to have the same needs? I can recall a conversation I had with the head of Siemens North America, who said to me, I may have to create my own university to get the bioengineers. I said, why would you do that? You have 100 colleges and universities in the region. It gets back to the theme of the last panel in terms of collaboration. In other words, we can work together on this. And so the big explosion we've seen at Penn just on this theme is around a master's program, master's in regulatory science, master's in different, but again, that's an additional cost to kind of get that skill. But back to sort of diversity and inclusion, I think a big part of it is what can we do to better provide opportunities and awareness to bring people from the community into our workplaces. And we've had this great success with the West Philadelphia Skills Initiative, which is a program offered to University City employers through the University City District. So thank you.
And we're running a little bit out of time, so my last question is a two-part question. One is, what is the future of higher education as it pertains to your specific institutions? And number two, we've been talking about how Philadelphia has been a city of firsts. What would you like to see Philadelphia be the first at next? Craig, start with you.
So the future of education as it relates to Penn, notice she narrowed me back. I had a different answer, but now I've got to think on my feet. So okay, all right. So I think exactly. I think the big thing you're going to see, not unlike what Jack and the panel before us said, is just what's the impact of technology on the delivery of the degree. And so can whether it's the online and what's the acceptance of that, that's going to be a big challenge. I think you are going to see, though, more broadly, consolidation in this industry or more partnerships just because of the demographics that are going to go on. The thing I'd like to see in the future for Philadelphia is I would like to have 4 parades on Broad Street in 1 year. Okay, does that sound like a good? Okay, all right, exactly. I'm not greedy, am I? I mean, so actually, I would say more seriously, we were just out at J.P. Morgan for their healthcare conference in San Francisco, and the Penn Center for Innovation did a panel, and the focus of the panel was on neuroscience. And so what I would love to see Philadelphia be known as the first place or the home where we either figured out the part of the brain that craves addiction and how we can regulate and curb this opioid crisis that we're all dealing with, or cure dementia or Parkinson's, but just the brain is sort of the frontier that I'd love Philadelphia to be the first in.
So, thanks for the curveball. You know, I see, especially healthcare education, changing dramatically. We're not doing it right. We're doing it the same way it was done 150 years ago. I think the way we pick the students who go into healthcare today, and even the way we're training them, not leveraging technology, not leveraging communication skills, there has to be a whole separate model. Anybody who's heard Steve Klasko talk, we say the same things at Salis. We need, you know, my strong opinion is I'd love to be bringing English majors, poetry majors, people who understand philosophy into the health sciences, because they become the great communicators. You know, we don't need to be teaching all these factoids anymore because we have Watson. Artificial intelligence is not only going to change the way we teach, but it's also changing the way we practice, and we're already starting to see this out in the real world, if you would. So we need to be training our providers to be able to adapt to that, and most importantly, how do they relate to patients? How do we assure we have continuity of care? How do we assure that all of the patients that we touch have a holistic approach to medicine and their own bodies and their own health care? And then how do we assure that, you know, they have access to that health care? So our providers need to be going down that road, and that's something the educational system needs to address, and that's on us. And we're starting to do that at Salis. We're starting to talk about, I know some of the other institutions are doing that as well. You know, right now it's, you know, I look at our university as kind of a strategic enabler for a lot of what's going on in healthcare. We have 21 articulation agreements in the city now where undergraduate programs are sending students our way to learn about occupational therapy, optometry, audiology, where they normally wouldn't have that. So if we can touch them and touch them in this new way, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. So a first for Philadelphia, you know, I would love to see a true educational consortium developed here. We were in Seattle, and we talked about a research consortium in global health, and we talk a lot about it, and we have collaborations individually, but we really don't pull that together. We can be, with what we have here in education and in healthcare systems, we have a huge opportunity to really build on all of our strengths. And if we can tie that together somehow and be the first city to really pull it together, I think that would be a real game changer.
I'll give you 5 more minutes while I think about that first. So I think the relationship between the community college and the K-12 system really needs to be tightened up. You know, I've said that for the first 50 years of community colleges' existence, we've tried to separate ourselves from K-12 because we wanted to be colleges and universities, and we really didn't want to be associated with that. But we really, now we really need to move towards a K-16 model, because that overlap between prepared or not prepared, ready to go to college, not ready to go to college, our ability to reach down into the high schools and even the you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades and prepare students for a college track, I think is pretty profound. And we're doing more and more in the area of dual enrollment. We probably have about 1,000, a little over 1,000 students right now who are in high school taking college credits. You're probably aware of our middle college program, whereby students will finish at Parkway Central in their senior year with an associate's degree. And so we, as well as the sector, is moving more and more in that direction. But the dual enrollment is kind of a one-off at this point. I think we need to further align our curriculum, our thinking, our goals, our mission into a true K-16 model. And then, of course, the other side of that is having the similar relationships with the four-year institutions. You know, a lot is said about transfer agreements, but transfer agreements really take a lot of work to put in place and to be able to sustain. Because you could put together an agreement with, you know, Temple, for example, and if the professor at Temple leaves or the professor at CCP leaves, that transfer agreement really begins to fall apart. So I think you know, the idea of tearing down the silos, recognizing that we're talking about pretty much the same students from K all the way through 16 is something that we need to adopt, and we need to put in structures that support that. In terms of first, I like the idea of the 4 parades. We could throw in there Union. I know Phil is there. It might be 5 parades. I think the infusion of technology in a way that enables early learners is something that I'd like to see Philadelphia to get out ahead with. A lot has been said about the need for STEM graduates and coding and things of that sort, and I don't know that there's a city yet that has incorporated. I know there's a lot of starts and stops. A lot of it is driven by the commercial, you know, the software companies, but I think the schools have yet to really fully embrace as well as fully adopt whether it's artificial intelligence or virtual reality in a way that enables people to see the world in the way that it is. You know, we still for the most part are didactic. We're still for the most part one-dimensional teachers as well as learners, and I don't think that's the way the world is. And I think that's part of the problem as it relates to STEM and some of the science areas. So I would really like to see, you know, an organic approach towards infusing the technologies, and I think the outcome of that will be quite profound in terms of the future of Philadelphia. So.
Well, you heard it, Philly. We have homework to do. I want to thank our panelists again. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Please give them a round of applause. Hold on 1 second. All right, one more round of applause for our educational leaders. Thank you. And now I'd like to welcome up to the stage our innovation panel. Please help me welcome Matthew Shapiro, Managing Partner from Obermeyer, Tricia Martz, Director of Accounts Management for Veola, Atif Gowri, Principal from Mazars, Jerry Booker, the Vice President for Corporate Development and Innovation for Independence Blue Cross, and John Giordano, Partner from Archer Law.
So welcome to the innovation panel. I'm Matthew Shapiro. I'm the managing partner of Obermeyer, Redmond, Maxwell & Hippel, a full-service law firm here in Philadelphia. When I'm not managing the firm, I try to be a litigator too. And here's what I have to say about, I want to thank everyone for coming out because it's a kind of crappy morning out there. And I'm sure people had to figure out how to get here in the rain. And so my version of innovation is I figured out this morning that I could get from my office, which is Center Square, all the way here underground. I didn't know I could do that. So if there's anyone from SEPTA in the room, thank you, because you've done a great job on Market East, and that's awesome innovation. But people are going to talk about the innovation going on in the city and challenge what we just heard and tell us what is going on that's really being done well already. And first, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Atif Gowri. I run a cybersecurity practice for Mazars, who's an audit accountant consulting company. So I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, went to school at Penn State and in graduate school at Penn. Love the city. I also worked at Comcast, so a lot of good anecdotes to share with you guys today. So thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is John Giordano. From Philadelphia. I've lived here in the city proper since, I guess, 1994. So yes, you can travel underground pretty much the whole stretch of Center City.
I've lived here since '69. I didn't know that until
it's one
today.
of our best kept secrets. I'm a partner with Archer and Greiner, based here in Philadelphia. My practice focuses primarily on government law and regulatory affairs, with a strong emphasis on sectors involving energy, environment, immigration, global mobility, white-collar compliance, and government investigations. We're a full-service firm. We've been around for quite some time, offices in New York, throughout New Jersey, Delaware, of course, here in Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C.
Good morning, Trisha Martz. I am not born and raised from Philadelphia. I moved here a year ago from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So what a wonderful city. Thank you for having me. Love it so far. I'm with Veolia North America, Director of Account Management. And a lot of people don't know exactly what Veolia North America does here in Philadelphia. We actually have the third largest cogeneration plant in the United States here in Grace Ferry. So not only do we produce electricity, we also produce steam and push it out in 40 miles of pipe in downtown Philadelphia. So we have over 500 buildings, 300 customers, and University of Penn is 40% of our business.
Good morning. My name is Terry Booker. I'm Vice President of Corporate Development and Innovation for Independence Blue Cross. Does everybody know what they do? We've already been referred to by Larry and Jack and I guess Craig, and you know, I sit on a couple of boards with PIDC with Craig and Harold Epps, but we are essentially, hopefully, a collaborator in the area of healthcare and health and wealth. And so we work with a number of institutions around the city in collaborative efforts to do things that you haven't seen before in ways that you didn't anticipate. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Well, let's do exactly that. So we just heard that we need more innovation, specifically in education and in healthcare, and I feel like that leads right into you. So tell these guys what we're doing well already.
Well, what we're doing well already, there's an organization that's been initiated by the Chamber of Commerce called the Healthcare Collaborative. So what that's doing is that's bringing together all of the institutions in the area to figure out what the biggest problems are and how to solve them. Now, that's been around for 2 years, and we've tried to ultimately winnow down what those big problems are, but I think Larry Kaiser mentioned one of them that really doesn't get much attention, which is the social determinants of health. There's not a way to make money from that yet, but there's a way for it to improve the quality of life for all of us, whether we are well-to-do or at the lower rungs of society. So that's something that's out there.
And are there areas where you see Philadelphia being out front of that innovation in solving those issues?
Well, I'll I'll do a little self-serving, selfless or shameless promotion. We're working with one of our customers, Comcast. Everybody also knows them, in trying to develop a platform, and we've created a company with our customers. So a new level of customer engagement for us to have a platform that uses their entryway into many of your homes through a cable box or through a mobile device to help guide people through a post-discharge journey. Now, most of you may say, well, what's a post-discharge journey? After you have some sort of surgery, you have instructions of things that you must do in order to complete your rehab and ultimately have the best outcome. Well, having that available via a mobile device, prescribed to you by that institution so that you can take advantage of that, whether you are mobile, at home, or at work, or wherever you can read instructions or do your rehab, is one of those things that we're working on.
That's great. And so now I'm going to turn to the rest of the panel. Tell me where we're innovating in Philadelphia. Tell me what's going on here that everyone else should see what we're doing. Start with energy. You have the microphone.
So we have a great partnership with University of Penn. We actually have a 20-year agreement with them. And one of their plans was, being greener, more sustainable. In 2013, we made a $60 million investment in the city of Philadelphia to put in 2 rapid start boilers to help for that with the University of Penn. But not only did we produce green steam, we helped reduce Philly's carbon footprint, not only for University of Penn, but for the city of Philadelphia. Not only did we partner with them to make that happen, by doing that, we reduced their carbon emissions. And the carbon emissions we reduced was like taking 28,000 cars off the Schuylkill. As a city, there's so much more. We're probably around 75,000 cars as a city as a whole, what Philadelphia, the cogeneration plant, does. Because not only do we produce steam for the city, we also produce electricity and sell it out to the grid. And that way we can help for the overabundance of electricity right now that we're seeing facing against the grid.
John, I'll give you a choice. You can either tell me what I should be doing in my law firm as I manage it, or you can tell me what your clients are doing, or you could tell me both.
Tell you a little bit about all of that. Just want to piggyback off of what you had just said. I've been in and out of the public and private sector for most of my career. Served as a regulator in the energy sector for quite some time. Want to just touch on what Philadelphia is doing well. And Philadelphia, I think, and the state in general does a fantastic job with a focus on people, profits, and planet. Whether it be through the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, where I had the privilege of serving, and their work together with the private sector in creating parks, which really not only help economic value here in Philadelphia, but social fabric, and of course obviously social fabric of the environment, but obviously your community. What you get when you marry up private sector, focused on obviously on profits, and the public sector with a focus on public health, safety, and welfare, is you get that focus on people, profits, and planet. And I think we do an excellent job here at that. Turning to what we're seeing from our clients in being innovative, is we're seeing just that. They're looking to partner with government. They know that they're more they can be more agile. They obviously have have a focus on profit, and they know that the government brings things they may not possess, whether it be funding, whether it be the expertise in the regulators or in folks that can say, okay, look, these are the things you need to be concerned about as far as various types of regulations, or when you're looking at doing X, Y, or Z and how it impacts the public health, safety and welfare. What should people be doing in their various firms, I think was your other question. I mean, far be it from me to tell others how to do their job. How we do our job, and it's a bit unique today, and we consider ourselves innovative in that we take a holistic approach to solving our clients' issues, / problems. And by that I mean we have a hybrid approach. You have your traditional legal method that all the attorneys and probably everybody in this room who's interacted with attorneys for better or worse knows, and then we have your government affairs, let's say tract. And a lot of times what we find is we have clients that have gone your traditional legal route and haven't gotten where they're looking to go, or have gotten stopped along the way, and they need another approach, another touch, and we provide that. And so I would encourage all firms to look to that type of hybrid approach. I think it best serves clients. We've had some significant wins with that approach. In addition, not to take too much time, focus on diversity. We've actually created a new position as Chief Diversity Officer within our firm. And we put a real focus on diversity, not only within our firm, but partnering with the private sector, other private sector companies, in promoting diversity there, and also within our firm, and having a type of, let's call it a type of co-op program between us. So that would be my recommendation, on top of creative billing options. A lot of clients don't want to see your traditional hourly billing. They're looking for more retainer type options, and we're able to provide that. And again, I would encourage other folks to look to do the same. It's been successful on our end.
And no, I'm moving down.
Okay, I thought I was like totally took way too much time.
So Tief, we've heard a lot about technology, and I think technology, I mean, it seems so much of my litigation has to do with technology and the impacts of technology. So much innovation is driven by technology. What do you see going on in Philadelphia in terms of the innovation driven by technology?
Yeah, I think the key term here is the pace, right? The pace of innovation is now, right? So clearly, manufacturing, energy, transportation, and even media, there's needs to change. But what really struck me is you could look at examples of case studies on Kodak, right? Where are they now? Or like Blockbuster, how they were disrupted, right? But look at companies like Netflix, right? Netflix is a $14 billion company, $150 billion market cap, a tech superstar. But just thinking back, remember they used to send you DVDs, right? They used to send DVDs in the mail, and they actually had to disrupt themselves into the model of doing it online. And then when they first did it, they had a lot of pushback. Well, how's it going to be fast? How's it going to stream? But who gets DVDs today? So even the technology supergiants now are disrupting themselves. So us here, across all other industries, we have to be, the pace of change has to be much faster. So, talking specifically in Philadelphia, I mean, if you look at Comcast, for example, a place where I used to be, I was one of the founders of the X1 platform. And if you love it, it was all me. If you hate it, then it wasn't, I didn't do anything. But one of the visions we had for the X1 platform is the remote control, right? So the remote control at the time, we wanted you to talk to it. This was 5-6 years ago, and today I talked about pace of change and innovation. I was talking to the head of set-top box engineering a couple days ago. 80 million remote controls that you could talk to, right? Talking remote controls. So the pace of change. The takeaway from that is it's now. You have to disrupt yourself, your own organization now. Otherwise, you'll end up like organizations like Kodak.
So I'm going to change gears a little bit here. Philadelphia has always been said to be a small town for as big a city it is, right? And so people who have been around here know the connectors in this city, right? We talk about this at our firm all the time. If you know the right people, you can get anywhere. You can touch anybody in Philadelphia. It's one of the really interesting things about the city. And I think within innovation, we've heard a lot of talk in the first two panels about collaboration specifically, and I think you talked about that a little bit, but let's talk more specifically about that. Where do we see collaboration going on across institutions as they innovate in the city?
Well, I'll take a stab at that. So at IBC, I think because we are really the nexus of all kind of payments and claims and things medical here in the city, I think we're a convener of those types of things. So we have done things with Temple in terms of what's going on in North Philadelphia and how to solve some of those problems. Additionally, for the last 5 years, we've done an accelerator in the innovation space for new companies. We've done that with Penn Medicine, which to my knowledge is probably the only accelerator for startups in the healthcare space that's co-sponsored by a healthcare system and an insurance payer. Additionally, as I mentioned, we have the Healthcare Collaborative that is looking at different issues. And so when you look at some of these things, I think what you have to see is, okay, how is that going to change going forward? And I think Larry mentioned something in one of the earlier panels, that healthcare as we know it has to change. And so right now there's nothing that really speaks to the consumer experience of healthcare, where you can literally pick up the phone and make an appointment to see a doctor and have that followed all the way through with a concierge type, not a concierge, but a concierge type individual that will check on your health as you improve. So those types of things that you get with the Amazons of the world and other customer service organizations are going to be things that we have to develop here as well. And so it's not going to be one thing that's done by Penn or Temple or whomever, but it's going to be something in terms of best practices that we develop collectively as an environment.
Give me one more. Anyone else got a collaboration answer? And then I'll throw one more question out, I think.
I would like to add something to what you said about collaboration, about Philadelphia being a big city, but the networking is small, which is true. Coming from Oklahoma, I would think it would be huge because your city is huge. But what I think is, it starts with us. So it starts with senior leadership. So if you have the firms in downtown Philadelphia and the senior leadership is not collaborating, if they're not doing it, nobody's going to do it. So you have industries or firms that have the collaboration. That's why the circle is small right now. So we have to have more senior leaders standing up to collaborate to expand that circle. That's what I've noticed since I've been here.
So I hate hearing that our grads leave to practice at the highest level because they can't do it here. I think that was the quote that I got in the last panel. Tell me where our grads, tell me how we're going to keep our grads here. Tell me how we're going to enable them to innovate and be excited and be able to practice at their highest level.
I'll go first. So in the cybersecurity space, which I sit in, one of the biggest challenges is labor. Right, it's a cybersecurity shortage, and a fun fact is that an average chief information security officer, a CISO, of say a Global 2000 company, has a tenure of 18 months, and not necessarily because he got fired, but because there's another offer comes around or something more interesting comes around, and so there's this revolving door for cybersecurity professionals because of the need, right? Now, with that said, to the question, I mean, what we're finding at Mazars and how we're building and keeping up with that arms race of labor talent is the schools, right? in a way, we're bringing them in, brainwashing them into how to perform cybersecurity tasks, how to meet customer expectations, and building that culture where students want to stay, right? And build their career with Mazars in one firm. And we have, you talk about Silicon Valley, but I mean over here in Philadelphia, we have quite a great community of incubators, right? So between Temple and Penn State and Drexel and many others, there's a plenty of place for cybersecurity talent to be developed. So I think that it starts from the roots, and in my particular domain, we're seeing that already just to respond to the market.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. If you were listening to Harold's comments about just the effort that we put together to try and get Amazon here, I think one of the things that we saw, or at least that I saw, was how great a city was. I mean, Philadelphia is the only city that I would move back to, and this is the second time I've lived here, and I've lived in New York Metro, I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in the Midwest. And so when you look at the type of lifestyle that's here, and I have 3 grown children, and 2 of them now want to move back from New York. It's affordable, there are lots of opportunities here, and we have to continue to create those opportunities. And so, that's what I see here. I mean, when you look all around town, this town is alive. I think Craig mentioned that he was out in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago. I was there as well. And San Francisco kind of shuts down at 8 o'clock. And this city is very much alive, particularly downtown, late into the night. And so those types of things are things that interest young people. If we get our education system together, those are going to be things that allow them to stay in the area at an affordable cost relative to the other cities that are nearby.
I think I got time for one more or 2 fast ones.
2 fast, okay, quick, fast one. You hear a lot from people that if you're not from Philadelphia, you don't want to stay here. And and I'm sure everybody here in this room knows somebody that graduated from, let's say, Penn Law or Wharton or something, and what do they do right away? They run to New York. And if you talk to those folks, why is that? The salaries are somewhat comparable. Certainly at the beginning of someone's career, it's culture, it's quality of life. And again, circling back on what Philadelphia does well is its focus on people, profits, planet. We're creating spaces, whether it be down at the Navy Yard or up in Fishtown, where young people can become a fabric of their community. There's cultural things around them. We're bringing people out. I remember in Philadelphia, I don't know, probably a lot of people remember, it was Make It a Night Wednesday night, right? It was, there was an encouragement for, restaurants to stay open, free parking, just to get people to come out one night a week. I think we've done a great job, the state, the city, in partnering with the private sector, whether it be Comcast, various different entities here, in creating that culture, that quality of life where our young people want to stay. And I believe that's it's particularly innovative in that we're a city just like law firms that are really steeped. They're bastions of tradition. Philadelphia really, you hear a lot of times doesn't want to change, but I think we're getting there, and I think it's that marriage of the of the public sector and private sector looking to spur that innovation. How quick that was, but
I'll give you a shot. What are they going to do? Kick me off the stage? Go on, you can answer.
Start playing the music like the Oscars.
I just want to add to what Harold said at the beginning. My husband is now a school teacher for Philadelphia school systems, and some of the stories I hear, I'll agree with what he says. It starts K through 12, and that's where we need to focus on in Philadelphia.
That's terrific. Well, thank you guys very much for talking about the innovation that's going on in the city, and thank you everyone for sticking through the panels and all the talking. I appreciate it.
How about a hand for our panelists? Good morning again. For all of you who haven't had the opportunity to meet me, my name is Josh Greenberg, and I'm the Executive Director for Invest Philadelphia 2019. It's been amazing getting to meet and work with all of you and your organizations throughout this tremendous project. It's really obvious to me that Invest has been a tremendous success, and we're really looking forward to coming out with the 2020 publication. Again, I really wanted to thank our sponsors, Archer, CBiz, Community College of Philadelphia, Greenberg Traurig, Independence Blue Cross, Key Bank, Mainline Health, Mazars, Obermeyer, Penn Medicine, Salus University, Temple University Health Systems, University of Pennsylvania, Veolia North America, and Wells Fargo. Please make sure that all of you guys pick up your personal copy of the publication before you leave. Thank you all for making this event a tremendous success.